Hello guys, Greg back with another video. On the channel it is all killer, no filler. So today I'm looking at my top 10 niche fragrances for spring for 2019. I've already posted my designer list. I'll leave a link in the video description below if anyone wants to check that one out. It's a little bit late, this list, but there are actually 5 weeks left of spring in the UK. Now remember, this isn't a definitive list of the greatest spring fragrances of all time. These are fragrances from my collection that I like, that I'm wearing. So just bear that one in mind. And I always find spring lists quite difficult to do because a lot of my real sort of favourite freshies would go into my summer list. So the ones that you're going to see in here are not all, all out hot weather fragrances. They're ones that are suitable for spring, suitable for summer, and a lot of them also for autumn as well. You're not going to see Green Irish Tweed in the list. It's a great fragrance, but I think everyone has it in the list, and it's not going to provide you guys with any more info. If I put that in there, you all know about it already. So number 10, we've got one from the very old British house of Atkinson's, and as you can see, this is called 24 Old Bond Street. This is a perfectly unisex fragrance in my opinion. It smells kind of masculine on a guy, feminine on a lady. If you want to know what juniper smells like, the first 30 seconds of this fragrance are pure juniper. And then that's joined by cardamom, and they are the two notes that run throughout the fragrance. But then you get a very strange combination of whiskey and tea, which works superbly well. And there's some other florals in here as well. Not sure exactly what they are. And then you get a musky ambergris base. But I'd describe the fragrance as being an aromatic, clean floral. Definitely worth checking out. You can pick it up quite cheap as well. So that's Atkinson's 24 Old Bond Street. Number 9, I've gone for one from the house of Frederic Malle, and this one is Geranium pour Monsieur. And this one is just a really fresh, clean fragrance. It's a real mint overload. So there's mint absolute in this fragrance, which is actually distilled from the mint leaves, and what it essentially gives you is like a spearmint smell. But there's also peppermint oil in the fragrance, which gives it a contrasting type of mintiness. And then on top of that, you've got geranium, which, if any of you guys know geranium, also has its own particular type of minty smell. And then the final thing in here is a material called rhodonol, and that's actually extracted from geranium, actually Chinese geranium. And it's the part of that geranium that gives the very fresh, clean, sort of uplifting feel. So you've got, as I say, so many different facets to the mint and the freshness in this fragrance. You'll also get a little bit of aniseed and some clove in here. But it's a very, very well put together fragrance. Lasts a long time for a fresh one as well. So that is Geranium pour Monsieur from the house of Frederic Malle. Number 8, I've gone for one from Tom Ford's Private Blend range. The big bottle. This is Rive d'Ombre. I think that's the correct French pronunciation. But this one's actually discontinued, but it recently came back just in a 50ml bottle, along with quite a few other sort of the classic old Private Blend fragrances. And initially I heard that they were limited editions that would only be around for a period of time. But I actually know someone that works for Tom Ford, and they've told me that those 50ml re-releases are going to be a permanent part of the lineup. I'm a little bit sceptical about that, but I guess we'll find out in due time. But anyway, back to Rive d'Ombre. This one's a blast of different citrus notes, and it's combined with a very interesting note of tarragon. Now, I have got tarragon, so I kind of know what it smells like, and it can come off in different ways. And what I think it gives this fragrance is a little hint of aniseed. It's the only thing listed in here that I think can give that aniseed type of vibe that I get in Rive d'Ombre. Tarragon's present in a few fragrances. It's present in L'Eau d'Issy Pour Homme, the original, but it doesn't have, it's more of a generic herbal greenness in that fragrance. But as I say, it can be like an aniseed type of smell. And then, of course, in Rive d'Ombre you've got amber in here, but it's a very mild kind of amber, not that strong, potent, dusty type of amber. It works with the freshness of this one. So that's Rive d'Ombre. Actually, one thing to say on that one is that it doesn't last very well. You will have to reapply that, so bear that in mind. Number 7, a very clean-cut, beautiful, fresh gentleman's cologne. This is from Acqua di Parma, and it's just called Colonia. And this one just exudes Italian style and class. Very old school, but not dated. It's a citrus aromatic, and it's got all of the things that you would expect from a classy citrus aromatic fragrance. Obviously citruses are in here, but you get lavender, you get spices. In the case of this one, it's actually rosemary that's the dominant spice, and then you get a vetiver and musk dry down. But it's got that very distinctive Acqua di Parma DNA. If you've smelt any of those fragrances, you'll know what I mean. But it's just a very fresh, clean, beautiful fragrance. Perfect one for spring. That's Acqua di Parma Colonia. Next, this is one that's actually quite surprised me. I don't really generally like really mass appealing, crowd pleasing type of fragrances, but this one just smells very good. It's not the most creative fragrance, but it just smells great to me. Not anything new, not anything different, but as I said, really good. And this is from Parfum de Malle, and this is called Percival. Now, it is very similar to Mont Blanc Legend. A lot of people have said that, and it really is. But this one's got everything. Part of this is kind of amped up compared to Mont Blanc Legend. It smells the same, but it smells different. It's vastly superior. It's not a fragrance for the fragrance connoisseur, but if you want to get noticed, you want to get compliments, you're not going to find many better fragrances than this. If you want to know what it smells like, as I said, Mont Blanc Legend, smell that fragrance and you'll get an idea. But Percival was actually loaded up with hedione and ambroxan, which are it gives it a lot of strength, a lot of longevity, but they're also two materials that are known to give off kind of a crowd pleasing feeling as well. So I have been wearing a lot of that one. It's an unusual choice for me, but I do enjoy it. So that's Percival from Parfum de Malle. Number 5, one that I've spoken about quite a few times, but nobody else that I can think of really ever speaks about this one. And I speak about this house quite a lot generally. And this is from Almond Jane, and this one is called Isfakand. Now, this is unmistakably an Almond Jane fragrance. It's got that signature pink pepper and just that special Almond Jane DNA. There's lots of lime and vetiver in this fragrance. As I said, you've got the pink pepper and there's a cedar base, and it's a really great cedar base, very distinctive. But so fresh and uplifting, this one. Smells very upscale. I don't have an issue with performance on this one, but a lot of people I've read reviews have said that it doesn't last very well. There is actually a new version that's just come out, which is called Isfakand Elixir. I'm hoping to get to try that one next week, so I might report back on how that one is and if it lasts longer. Number 4 we have from the house of Proform Roma. This one is called Battito d'Ali. Now, I've heard people say in reviews that Battito d'Ali means butterfly wings. It may well do, but I did a little bit of research, and for me, from what I can gather from translating it, just means beating wings. But either way, I don't really see any association with the fragrance or the vibe of the fragrance towards beating wings. But it's very smooth, very classy. As with all the Proform Roma fragrances, the concentration is ridiculously high in here. It's so thick and oily. And it's one of those rare fragrances where the notes that the brand have actually described as being in here is exactly how the fragrance smells. It's a huge dose of myrrh, a huge dose of vanilla, and you get coconut, and then some very clean, soapy white florals. It's a beastly performance. Good all year round fragrance, I'd say. Just go a little bit easy on the trigger with this one, because it's not pleasant to be around someone that's sprayed too much of that, because I have experienced that. So just be a bit light on the trigger. Number 3. Now, this is one that I've only sort of recently discovered in about the past 6 months, but it's gone right into my all-time favourites list. And this is from Acqua di Parma's Blue Mediterraneo range, and it's called Ginepro de Sardinia, Juniper of Sardinia. And I've mentioned in previous notes that this previous videos, that this one reminds me of Gucci Pour Homme 2. I get a strong tea note from this fragrance. There isn't tea listed in here, but I definitely pick it up. And Ginepro means juniper in Italian, and this is unmistakably a juniper fragrance, but it's like a spicy, woody juniper. There's lots of peppery notes in this fragrance, and a wonderful citrus note as well. But it's quite an underappreciated, underrated one. Highly recommend you try it if you haven't. That is Ginepro de Sardinia from the house of Acqua di Parma. So the big 2, and number 2 is a stunning vetiver fragrance. One of the very best, actually, that I've come across. And this is Roger Parfum's Vetiver Eau de Parfum Pour Homme. Now, I saw a recent interview on YouTube, can't remember who it was, but Roger Dove actually said in the interview that this was one of his proudest creations. So that's got to say something about it. But it opens up with lemon, lime and vetiver. And it manages to be a classic fragrance, but also modern. It's got like a modern chypre feel, which is created by having oak moss, bergamot, and labdanum in here. And the vetiver remains throughout, from the very first spray right through to the end. And it just makes you feel kind of distinguished and classy when you wear this. It's surprisingly under talked about, really, considered from as a fragrance from this brand. I think it's one of the very best from the brand, but it's not one that ever gets talked about. So that is number 2, Roger Parfum's Vetiver Pour Homme, and number 1, my favourite niche fragrance for spring 2019. It's from the House of Creed, but it's not the one that I mentioned earlier that everyone picks. This one is Original Vetiver. Huge bottle. Look at the colour of that juice. I'm not sure how well the camera picks it up. It's a beautiful green sort of, I don't know, grassy colour, but it looks fantastic. But this one starts out as a very clean, soapy citrus, and the first few minutes of this, and this has been discussed many times, are very similar to Mugler Cologne, and I've featured that fragrance in my designer list. But Original Vetiver has more levels to it, and it transitions, whereas Mugler Cologne's quite linear, and this one moves towards being a clean vetiver, musk and ambergris fragrance. You've always got that clean soapiness running through it, but unlike with Mugler Cologne, it's not always the prominent part. If I had to choose between the two, if the price was the same, I would choose Original Vetiver. But as it stands, if I was only buying one, I would opt for Mugler Cologne, simply based on the fact that the difference in price is not justified by the difference in the fragrances, if that makes sense. But going simply on composition and which one I like and forgetting the cost, I'll choose this one. It's an amazing fragrance, and for me it's my favourite spring fragrance of all time. So there you go, that's the end of another video, guys. My top 10 niche spring fragrances for 2019. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to, as I said before, leave a link below for my designer list. Before I go, just remember that you can sample over 500 fragrances from my online store, which is fragrancesamplesuk.com. If your country doesn't appear on the list of available countries, then you can just email us at info@fragrancesamplesuk.com and we can sort things out for you. Also, just before I go, if you wouldn't mind following me on Instagram, we have a post on there every day now, and the Instagram page is called Fragrance Samples UK. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'll be back very soon with another video. Cheers.